Batgirl, 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 Batgirl. Where do you come from? Where do you go? What is your scene, baby?
This video will be a summary of the information given in Chapter 2. When you go out at night, you won't be alone. Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, from Carolyn Cocca's book, Superwoman, Gender, Power, and Representation. Batgirl was introduced to the 1967 television show Batman to hopefully increase the following ratings. It was hoped that the addition of a female character would draw in a wider male audience. Yvonne Craig portrayed Batgirl in a costume that resembled Batman's but was more feminine. She was supposed to always appear very feminine, appearing younger and shorter than her male co-stars. In her fighting scenes, she was not allowed to use any martial arts as it would be too masculine. Plotlines surrounding her are often influenced heavily by fashion and other activities historically only females participated in. Her feminine qualities were often overplayed and used to catch the villains objectifying her.
Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon, made her first comic appearance in January of 1967. She is shown as a strong, capable woman who is independent and hardworking. It was made clear in her first couple of appearances that Batgirl doesn't want to be around for romance. It is her goal to fight crime with her abilities. However, she is still stereotyped by others and thought of as a burden. Because she is drawn only by men as one of the few female characters, Batgirl is spotlighted as an exception. When Batgirl is paired with another person, they usually talk about a man. Her early stories involve stereotypical female issues such as fashion, dating, and appearance. This would not be a problem if there were a greater amount of female characters, but because there are little female characters in her comics, she is portrayed as a gender stereotype. In the 1980s, Carrie Burkett took over the control of writing Barbara in the comics. The new Barbara was not as confident of a hero, as Burkett had made her feel very influenced by her recent losses. Since Barbara is often the only female in her story, it portrays being female as being insecure. She starts to get phased out by a new female superhero, Supergirl, who does not show these insecurities. Supergirl makes Barbara feel inadequate, although Supergirl tries to inspire her, then goes on to carry out a suicide mission, furthering Barbara's feelings of inadequacy.
In the book, and later the movie, The Killing Joke, the strong female character is torn down. The Joker paralyzes Barbara by shooting her in the spine, documenting the entire process. It is also implied that he sexually assaulted her. The purpose of this assault was to be used to drive the decisions of the male heroes. It was not to drive Batgirl's story. Her recovery process was not followed, even though the stories of her father and Batman's reactions were covered. The writers were okay with basically writing off one of the very few female characters in order to drive the male character's decisions. This is known as fridging. Fridging is a phenomenon that happens to females in comics. It is when massive acts of violence, often sexualized, towards the female character impacts the story arc of the male character but remains distant from the female victim's emotions and recovery.
Refreshing to hear. Not by the book. Speaking of which, this one won't be walking off the shelf anytime soon. In fact, the idea of her walking anywhere seems remote. But then, that's always a problem with softbacks. Oh God, literary discussions can get so dry, can't they? Finish the commission, take him where he needs to be. And please, do be careful. After all, he is topping the bill. It really is a shame you'll miss your father's debut, Miss Gordon. Sadly, our venue wasn't built with the disabled in mind.
Why are you doing this?
To prove a point. Here's to crime.
Yeah, Dad. I just got back from the lacrosse game. Going to practice some wall ball this weekend. Getting pretty good. Maybe another night, Dad. I got plans tonight. I can't help it if your daughter's so popular. I'll talk to you later. Right then, back to work.
Comic writers John Ostrander and Kim Yale were not satisfied with the ending of Barbara's story, so they created a new persona for her as Oracle. This character was designed to show that Barbara was no less of a hero even with her disabilities. Instead of physically fighting crime, she used all of her equipment and incredible smarts to aid her fellow heroes in their quest against crime. In this portrayal, Barbara can be seen as an inspiration to disabled individuals as she is able to be a hero even with their changed situation. Her situation is a lot different from the other disabled characters in the DC universe, as the others have powers that more than compensate for their disability, making the disability go almost unnoticed. This version of Batgirl turned Oracle is drawn in a style to make her appear less appealing and considerably frumpier. The beginnings of the Oracle showed Barbara still a little shaken and unsure of herself after her instant accident, but she soon becomes a confident and powerful leader. Chuck Dixon and Gail Simone soon took over the fate of Barbara as they began a new adventure for her in their comic series, Birds of Prey. She is written similar to any other female superhero, being portrayed as young and attractive. Her characteristics include being a brilliant tactician, funny, kind, and a great leader. It was an important advancement for the time that Barbara was still mobile and was not defined by her disability. In this comic line, Barbara becomes a mentor to a series of women who each take a turn succeeding her in the role of Batgirl or adopt other vigilante identities. Her character also has romantic relationships, which is very different from the typical romantic situations of other disabled characters. Fans of the Birds of Prey series seem to prefer Oracle to Batgirl. She is seen as a different kind of hero because of her disability. Fans love how she overcame her disability and became a stronger woman from it. However, because she has more resources than a normal disabled individual, she gives a false impression that anyone with a disability can become completely independent. Although Barbara Gordon is portrayed as an independent person, it is important to see that she is privileged because of her socio-economic status. Oracle can financially afford to get assistance if she needed to, which is something people of a lower income would most likely could not afford. Barbara is also privileged because she is able to communicate with others through technology. Because people cannot see Oracle, they often perceive her as a male stereotype because of her computer skills. In the Birds of Prey comic book series, Oracle's full body was rarely shown in the cover of the book. Most of the time, Barbara's head was displayed next to another full body image of a female superhero. This is due to the common hypersexualization of females in comic books. Because of the focus on the female body, artists most likely had trouble depicting her sexuality.
Gail Simone was charged with revamping Barbara. One of the requirements from DC was that Barbara had to lose the wheelchair. While Simone was hesitant to remove Barbara from her wheelchair, she knew that if she did not write the story, DC would have someone else write it for them. In the reboot, Oracle Barbara gets a curative surgery in an African village and comes back to reclaim her role as Batgirl. In this adaptation, Barbara is left emotionally scarred and closed off, as she now suffers from post-traumatic distress, making the argument available that she is still disabled. While some people saw this as a relief to see her out of her wheelchair, some saw it as a loss of a role model to disabled people. Seeing Oracle unfazed and confident, regardless of her ability, inspired and empowered others. Batgirl has experienced a vast amount of changes since her debut in 1967. After being portrayed as a female stereotype and thrown away through fridging, she has become a symbol of empowerment as Oracle and then lost it all in her recent reboot. Batgirl is an inspiration to some and a degrading gender stereotype to others. Regardless of how her image has changed from one comic series to the next, Batgirl has proven that societal norms can and will change over time for better or worse.
We have a visitor. Batgirl.
Batgirl? Batgirl! Batgirl?
Batgirl.
Yes, Batgirl.